So is it even possible to make $1 million in 5 minutes? Well, the good news is yes, it is. The bad news is it takes a little bit of preparation before you can actually do it. A little bit like if you're watching a video on how to take off a 747 in 5 minutes, you'd find out it's very possible, but of course you're gonna have to do a lot of preparation to even get to that place. So I'm gonna give you 3 different ways that people in the world are able to make $1 million in 5 minutes. And I'm going to start with the first one, and you decide which one is best for you. The first way is when you simply go to someone who has already millions of dollars, whether it is a millionaire or a bank, and it's someone who trusts you already, and you say, I have this brilliant idea which is going to make X amount of return, which you know is better than whatever return they're getting, and as a result, they give you the $1 million. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, you'd have to have the trust in order for you to even be able to do that. Absolutely. Either the trust or the security in another way, because the whole idea of this is that you're giving someone an opportunity to be able to make a better return at a lower risk than any other way they could do it. So one way to explain this is if you were to think of all money flow as water flow, it's simply a matter of saying, so how do I make sure I'm going to someone higher up the mountain who has a high level of capital, and then as a result of showing up and giving them a way to flow that money down the mountain, it'll always flow your way. This first way, by the way, is by far the most dangerous way, because this first way is not where you simply get the money and then can hold on to it. It's where you've taken someone else's money and they're expecting some return for that. This is something which is called credit. And anyone who has experienced the current credit crisis will know that this is a big problem if you haven't figured out the next 2 parts first. So what does credit mean? Credit means that you have given someone a future promise. You're going to give them interest or a return on the money that they've given you. And the great thing about credit is that if you already have got trust with the right team, you're going to find that even in times like a credit crunch, you can still get credit. Someone like Richard Branson can still get credit because he has trust with the people around him. But like I said, this is the most dangerous way, because if you lose your trust, you lose your credit. And when you lose your credit, you lose what you thought was your wealth, which was the money in the bank, when in fact that wasn't your wealth at all. So the first way is where we find out that the quickest way to make $1 million is to be able to take $1 million from someone else with the promise of return. Risky, dangerous. So what's the second way, which is a little bit safer? That's when you're able to say to someone, look, if you can give me $1 million and then I will give you 50% of this great venture or business that I'm running, then I'll go out and make sure that this venture is successful, and you'll not only get a return from it, which you'd get if you were giving credit, you would also actually have capital value in this as well, which means you've got shares that you can sell later. So this second way, which is how everyone creates markets around property or around business, the whole stock market, the whole currency market is based on the second way, is something called capital. And capital is this concept that capitalism has given us, which is that we can actually value the future flow that we are going to create. Take, for example, a property. If you know you can make $10,000 a year in rent on the property, someone might capitalize that by saying, I'm willing to get 20% return a year. So if I'm getting $10,000 a year, I'll value it at $50,000. Or a business can work in the same way. So I'm making $100,000 every single year in my business. Someone might come along and say, right, well, I'm willing to pay $300,000 for your business so that in 3 years I get my money back and I've still got ownership of that stream as well. So the concept of capitalism is that every one of us can create something, whether it's going and buying a house or whether it's starting a business, which allows someone else to come along and say, I want to have a share of your future stream, of that river that you've created. Capital is not as dangerous as credit, but at the same time, capital is something that you will find is very, very expensive to be able to create, because you have to give out a lot of your future in order to even get it. So how does capital work? Well, again, it works on trust. And you'll find that as you build more capital, credit becomes safer because you can secure the credit against the capital. So anyone who's currently in a self-employed job, you might be thinking, well, I haven't capitalized my business. I'm just there working every day. Or you might be someone who is in a house and you think, well, I'm not capitalizing this because I simply live in it. So I'm not even creating cash flow for it. So we can start to restructure the things that we have. You might even have a brand and you think, I don't even have brand capital because I'm not even selling rights to my brand to others to be using. You're going to find that every one of the 8 profiles in Wealth Dynamics has got a different way they build capital, and they always build it off their flow. But like I said, it's a very, very expensive way to be able to collect money and create this mountain which the flow actually stands on. It's more sustainable. But if the capital markets actually change, which means, just as we've seen, not only has credit ended up falling because capital has been overvalued, but we start to find around us that people are questioning what capital we have. Is it really worth what we think it is? Is our business worth what it is? Is our brand worth what it is? And when that comes into question, you need to have number three. These two happen super quick if you're a multimillionaire or a billionaire, because you've got trust that people know you know how to manage capital, you know how to get credit off that capital, so as a result they know you're always going to be okay. But it all is because of the third one. And if you get the third one right, you can keep on making millions in minutes on these first two, but the third one is where all the preparation lies. So what is the third way? The third way is the way that's sustainable. The third way is the way you have to have patience for. You better make sure it's something you're passionate about, something that actually delivers some purpose, because this is the one where you want to grow your river. I've already said that capital is future ownership of your river. So of course, your river is everything. And this is where the third one comes in, which is something called cash flow. Now, what's interesting about cash flow is some of us are so busy trying to get there quick by getting credit. I'll make a $10,000 profit by getting a credit card with $10,000 on it, which clearly is not 10,000 profit, but is what happens at credit level for us to actually just try and chase money dangerously. Or at capital level, which is, well, here's what I'm going to give you of my future, and as a result, you can have a chunk of my capital. But of course, with that, it's very expensive. With cash flow, people are now buying into your ability to be able to create cash flow from the way that you are managing your river. All of this comes down to two things, which is number one, how are you creating value? Every great entrepreneur in the world created value in a specific way, and then multiplied that by how you leverage, which is how you leverage that value. Bill Gates had some great software, but he leveraged it through the PC industry. Or someone like George Soros has some great ways that he was able to spot timing in the market, but then he leveraged it through his fund. Every one of us has got a particular path, and that's what Wealth Dynamics is about. A path which allows us to sustainably create value, leverage it, and as a result you have a flow of value, and that flow of value is what leads to flow of cash. Someone will always be looking to share their cash with you if you're able to share your value with them. There is over $3 trillion a day traveling around this planet looking for a home. Every single one of those dollars falls from a high level of value to a low level of value every single day until it gets right to the bottom and then rains from the top again. And if you think about the entire economy, like one of those towers of champagne glasses where everything flows down and it's simply a question of which glass are you? Where are you sitting in that chain? And making sure that you're sitting there somewhere by knowing who you're creating value for, who you're leveraging. That's the basis of Wealth Dynamics, and that's sustainable wealth. When you have prepared yourself here, like knowing how to fly a jumbo jet, it is nothing to do with the jumbo jet. It is everything to do with your ability to be able to create flow. And when you have that, you're going to find that these other elements you can create whenever you want. And even when the credit markets collapse, even when the capital markets collapse, people will still come back to you, because what they know fundamentally is the key to all of wealth is your ability to create flow.